Why do little things turn into big blow ups? Why does that happen?
Because I'm triggered.
Ooh, triggers. Triggers. So today we're going to talk about triggers when love feels like a landmine. Woo.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So sometimes I want to tell you, sometimes triggers are not your partner. Sometimes it's your past. Your past is showing up. So let's talk about triggers. Let's talk about trauma and what to do when you are about to lose it again.
Oh, all right.
Can we do it?
Absolutely.
All right, let's roll. Let's roll. I'm triggered. When we don't move, when we don't keep going, I get triggered. So let's go. Let's move. Let's
all
move.
right. So we're going to start with what is a trigger?
Okay.
Since we're talking about triggers, what is a trigger?
It's emotional danger in disguise. I think when you feel triggered, you feel like something is going to happen. And it's generally based on an experience. It's something that you've experienced before that you still either need healing around, or it's something that you may need to address, acknowledge, and particularly maybe get help with. But those are things, and triggers could be anything. They could be anything can trigger. That's why you never know. You have to be so mindful when you're having communication and when you're talking to people, because what triggers you may not be the same thing that triggers someone else.
Okay.
So triggers it's an intentional, intense, or unintentional, sometimes unintentional, sometimes unintentional, intense emotional reaction to something in the present that reminds you of a wound from your past.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right. So you've already had the experience.
Yes.
In order for whatever it is to create this emotion or this reaction. And then those things are called triggers.
Yeah. And sometimes things may look like a thing and they're not the thing. Okay. So you may be triggered sometimes by things that you assume will happen because you see a little glimpse or a little piece of something. So I know that it's often hard, like I said a few minutes ago, to figure out what triggers people until they're triggered, until you see it. Because sometimes we don't even know. I have said before, we've said before that, there are a lot of things that you think you may be delivered from and they're just dormant.
Right.
And you don't realize it until something happens and it flares itself up. So you may be reacting to your partner, but it's really kind of your nervous system responding to your history. It's what's happened to you or what you've experienced. I won't say happened to you. I'll say what you've experienced over time.
Right. And a lot of those things are buried. A lot of those things you don't even, like you said, you don't have a conscious, you're not consciously aware of what it is that's causing you to be triggered in that moment.
Yeah, sometimes you get so radically tight, so radically defensive, and so radically stuck behind some things that are triggers. And I think about, like now, I have this real thing about people yelling at me. Like I got a real thing, like, do not yell at me. I don't care if you're mad. I don't care if you hype. You need to control that. Don't yell at me. I don't yell at people. I don't want you yelling at me. And if I trace that back, I can trace that back to being yelled at as a child.
Right.
And how it always made me feel like I had to shrink. It always made me feel like I had to stop what I was doing instantly. Like I had to, whatever it was, you got to stop, like whatever it is. And so now it's like, don't yell at me.
Right.
I will listen to anything that you have to say, but if you start yelling, you are on your own. I have left the building. And even if I have not physically removed my body, I don't hear you.
Emotionally, you already checked out.
Emotionally, I am gone.
Okay.
And so when we think about triggers, they can sometimes come from anywhere. They can come from your past. They can come from an experience that you've had. And it could have been one thing. We were talking at Mother's Day with my brother, didn't realize that my daughter he didn't realize that Tierney was still frustrated or still afraid. I shouldn't say afraid. She's not afraid of water because she's not. But she never mastered swimming. She can swim. She's never mastered swimming or gotten really comfortable with swimming because of the way that she learned this, well, the way that they
It
threw
was
in.
introduced to her.
Yeah, it was the way that it was introduced to her. So now she's always triggered. And I noticed when Tegan and Tori were at the house when we were on vacation and they would run towards the pool, it was an instant response from her. Not that they were even close, but the fact that something could happen or they could be thrown in or pushed in. And I still, my cousins joke about it now, but we still talk about the same thing. It's like, that's how I learned. They threw me in the water. And my cousin Daryl still thinks it's hilarious. And they still blame each other, but I know exactly who threw me in the water. Mm-hmm. So those things are triggers, and sometimes they're grounded in things that have happened in your childhood. That's it. Went all the way around the world to say just that. But.
Okay. So they're not baseless, is what you're talking about.
Right.
So these triggers are either based on something that occurred to you, or maybe something that you witnessed, something that transpired. It's a part of your history.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And you have a response when you see it, or you see things that look eerily close to it, things that appear very similar to what that thing was that hurt you before, or that thing that caused you harm before, even if you didn't recognize the degree of the harm when it happened.
Right.
When you see it coming, you tighten up, you tense up. So yeah, it's definitely a reaction to something that has occurred, and it's legitimate. Mm-hmm. It's legitimate because you have legitimate thoughts about it. So I don't want anyone to ever think their triggers need to be dismissed. They may sometimes, though, need to be dealt with.
Well, and they got to be, you have to recognize too that that's what's causing it. Yeah. Because you can also be acting out, not really know why you're acting out, not know why your heart is racing, not know why you're sweating. And it could be something that's attached to something from the past, something that happened that you actually witnessed. And now you're having a physical response to that thing. Yeah.
Yep. And you can see it in, there are people that are like, okay, she's starting to act funny, so I'm just going to end this relationship. Or you can see it. So there's a lot of retreat that happens when people are triggered. And then there's a lot of lashing out. So some people will retreat when they see it, and other people may lash out. And if you're on the other side of that, when people have been triggered, sometimes you may be saying, well, where did that come from? Why is that so extreme? But it's connected to something, to an experience that was extreme for that person.
Right. Yeah. So it may look like an overcompensation for you, but it may be just right for them based on whatever it is that they went through.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting and intricate topic.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be different based on people, experiences, ages, all of the variables that go into that. It makes this a really, really interesting topic.
Yeah, and it's not even what's even more interesting, or what's as interesting, is the fact that it's so different for every person. So you can't assume what makes you mad makes everybody else mad. Right. So a lot of times you'll walk into a room and you'll see something and you're triggered and you're wondering why everybody else not bothered by this thing. But it's something that's connected to you that you need to really dig up and unleash or heal from. Or treat, figure out, so that you can live freer in that area. Because again, and then you hold people accountable for the things that trigger you, and sometimes they don't realize it's a trigger.
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking about too, as we're talking about this, is that you watch the crime shows.
I do.
And I cannot watch the crime shows for one reason and one reason only. And that is, I cannot watch a woman suffer.
Yeah.
And so any show that has women suffering or being abused or whatever the case may be, that is an automatic trigger for me. And the only thing I can really attach it to is my mother instilled that you need to have an immense of respect for women. And so that for me is a real issue when it comes to TV shows. There's nothing entertaining about that for me. And so for me watching TV, I'm looking to be entertained. I can't even sit in the same room
He can't.
when those things are going on.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's so weird. I'm like, come watch Criminal Minds with me. He's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And it's even been situations where you've heard like the scream
Yeah.
on the show, and then you'll come close the door.
Yeah.
Or you'll walk off and go downstairs or something to that effect. And I didn't realize that it was that triggering for you until right now. But I thought you just didn't like the shows. But I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you for sharing that, because it allows me now to look at it a little bit differently.
Well, and that goes to our next topic, is that you need to know how to recognize, and then you need to know how to regulate. So that's how I regulate. And then we're going to talk to people about how to repair those issues that you've experienced and how to make them as non-triggering as possible. So recognize this emotion feels bigger than the moment. And so you need to recognize when whatever I'm doing or saying or how I'm reacting is really bigger than what we've got going on right now. You know, I didn't know that, say for instance, you didn't know that you were never allowed to get McDonald's when you were a child. And so you say, hey, we need to stop there. And I said, okay, well, we don't have time. Well, we're going to stop right now because, you know, I need to have it. So once again, just the no in that situation was a trigger. But if you don't know why the no was a trigger, because I don't remember us stopping and having fast food. We can make a hamburger at home. You know, so
exactly.
What are you talking about?
I'm gonna eat that hamburger. I got a hamburger at home.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. When the next R is the regulate, and that's the part that gets to be hard when it's gotten so far out of hand. So you have to be able to recognize your triggers, which is the first R. To recognize your triggers. Recognize: is this bigger than what just occurred? Is your reaction does your reaction align to what actually occurred?
Right.
And if your reaction doesn't align, then obviously there's some sort of disconnect there that we need to really explore and spend some time thinking through, because it's hard to regulate when you don't know how. When you don't recognize, you don't know how to identify what that is. So recognize and then regulate. Practice some grounding techniques. Think about some breathing exercises. That's 7 in, 7 out is a huge one that's used a lot. Another technique is 5 things you see, hear, and feel in that moment. So if you just stop and you just look for 5 things that you see, it'll help you to focus on something other than the emotion in that moment.
Okay.
What are 5 things that you hear in the moment? And like now, I would pause and I hear the clock. I hear, or some things that I see. I see the lights blinking here, our timer here. So it's so many things that come when we are trying to figure out what that feeling is.
Right.
And if we have some regulation techniques or some things that help us regulate in the moment, it'll make it easier for you to be able to deal with what you actually recognize.
And then be intentional about all of this, right? So be intentional about recognizing it, be intentional about regulating. And lastly, we look at repair, because we want to make sure going forward that whatever we give you, want to give you some strategies, some tools to repair. So how do I repair this? What am I doing when I'm working to repair this issue of being triggered by things that have occurred in my past?
Well, one is you take time to figure out what those triggers really are. Sometimes it's not, you got to dig deeper. So you got to do the work. That's the first thing, because again, it may not be that you are mad because the top is off the milk or whatever. We don't drink milk, so that don't really matter, but you get the point. The top off the milk, it may not be that the top is off the milk is what makes you mad. It's the fact that you may have gotten beaten when you, or let me change it. Let me change that. Change this all around. Forget it. But like, for me, it may be something where you had to put the ketchup in the refrigerator. You were raised to put the ketchup in the refrigerator. And then someone leaves to put the ketchup in the cabinet or in the pantry, and you're mad. You're like, what? Give me the ketchup. And you're like, when you trace it back, you know, to the other person, they're like, dang, it's just ketchup. Put it wherever you want to put it.
Not
It's
that
like
serious.
right.
Yeah.
But you've spiraled all the way out about this because you've gotten beaten for not putting the ketchup away. You've gotten not putting it in the refrigerator. You've gotten beaten for leaving it out, and it's getting hot when other people want cold ketchup or whatever it is. And that's very simplistic. But the first thing you have to do is recognize it. The second thing you have to do is dig deep to find out what are you really angry about? What is that really attached to? Why does it trigger? Does it make you feel scared? Does it make you feel nervous? Does it make you feel unsafe? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel afraid? Does it make you feel like you are less than? Is there scarcity there? Are you afraid that you're going to run out of something?
Okay.
So you need to leave it in the refrigerator for a long period of time or whatever it is. Because if you run out, then you may not have any more. There's so many things that could be under that. So the first thing would be to recognize, one, that it is a trigger, but then two, dig deep and find out where did that come from.
Because that's where the repair is going to come from.
That's where the repair comes from.
Because we're encouraging you not to suffer through this, you know, for the balance of your life.
Oh, absolutely not. You don't, and you don't have to.
Right.
You can repair this. And if you have done something and you've exploded on someone because of a trigger that you have, and it had nothing to do with them, go back and apologize. Circle back on that thing and say, you know what? I was triggered by that because of something that had nothing to do with you. And I'm sorry. I apologize for that. And now here's what I'm going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because again, you know, I'm the accountability person. I'm going to always say, yeah, your apology sounds really nice.
Right.
But what are you going to do to make sure you don't do that again?
Right.
Because if you don't own it, you don't recognize it, you don't own it, then you are definitely going to do it again because you don't think anything's wrong. You don't think anything's wrong. And that to me is that's huge. So when you're repairing, circle back and have a conversation when you're in a space where you can. You don't want to circle back and do it in the middle of your trigger, in the middle of your anger or your frustration. But when you walk off, be honest with yourself and go, wow, it was just ketchup put in the pantry. Was that worth me throwing the glass and saying, this is you so stupid and I can't believe you do this and I don't care that your family ain't put it in the refrigerator, my family did, and all the other things that come out when you seem to be triggered and when your nervous system has you in a space where you just feel like you got to fight for yourself or either withdraw and just escape from whatever the place is. So I would definitely say those would be your two things. Recognize it and then trace it back. Yep. Trace it back to figure out where it comes from and then uproot that thing.
Because that's an awesome segue to the next part where it says, when your partner is not the problem, but they wind up catching the pain. And so another saying that you use is that how long is somebody going to have to suffer because you won't fix you?
Right.
And so that's why we don't want to tell you about something without giving you an opportunity to understand how to repair that thing.
Right.
And so with this one, they're not the enemy.
Yeah.
And we talked about that during the last podcast. You guys are a team. And so they're not the enemy. They just happen to step on
that landmine.
Right. Of course, they wouldn't have stepped on it intentionally, but they stepped on a landmine that they didn't plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and they don't even know what the terrain is a lot of times in the situations. And so they wind up trying to navigate a situation and not knowing what is going to be volatile and what's not going to be volatile.
Yeah, you have a trauma map. And it's hard for people to navigate if they don't have the map.
Okay.
So you have to be open about the things that are traumatic for you, and you have to be honest. But the only way you'll do that, and you'll do that intentionally, is when it's safe to do so.
Okay.
So it's up to you and your partner to create a safe space so that you can talk about the things that trigger you and the things that are important to you, and then join up, link arms together to figure out why and how. And again, that has to be done in a safe space where it's not weaponized and you're not gaslighted and all these other stuff later on, because those are manipulation techniques that happen and they're very real. So, but you got to be honest with yourself about too, where your safe space is.
And if you're able to do that, then you're able to tell the truth and then not tiptoe through a relationship. Yep. Because we've heard a number of times that people say, I'm walking on eggshells in this relationship. And that's not something that we encourage, because eggshells don't produce a thriving relationship.
Right.
And eggshells don't produce effective communication. And eggshells also don't produce resolution. And so those are all things that you're working toward. So if you're walking on eggshells, then you're not working toward that end.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You got to be really careful with that. If you feel like you are in a situation where it's like you're gonna get in trouble or something like that in your relationship,
not good.
Not good. You need to fix that. You need to address that. And now we talked about this from the perspective of healing and recognizing your own triggers when people aren't aware of your triggers. But what happens when people know your triggers and they play on those? Manipulation.
Right.
So what do you do in those situations?
Well, in those situations, once again, you got to go back to what we talked about last time is boundaries. And so if you've got somebody that is doing that, not only boundaries, but then red flags again, because now there's a red flag, because that's how I'm manipulating you and maybe manipulating a relationship. And so once you recognize that, that's why all of these are so important. So if you're watching this, stop it. Take time out, take some notes, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're on track about what you need to do to make the change. Because all of this is about impacting relationships, right? We want you to have effective relationships. You want them to thrive. So when you see that happening, stop in that moment. And maybe you haven't explained that to them before. I may have assumed that you knew that this was my trigger, but now I'm seeing that maybe you don't. So we're not going to be able to do this in this environment. This is what we need to do differently about this. And then if I have respect for you and I want the best for you, then I'll make the change.
Yeah, if you're being triggered on purpose, you've explained it, they're clear, they know where it comes from, and they're weaponizing that. That's a control issue that you need to manage. You need to deal with that and be honest. And if you can't be honest, then be safe.
Right.
Nothing else. If you can't be honest, then get to a safe place because that's not it. That's not it. And speaking of safe, you also need to come up with some safe words or some signals that let the other person know that they're getting really close to a landmine. And
that's going to be different for the individuals. They need to do that on their own and figure out what that looks like for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you'd have to say, when you do that, that makes me uncomfortable, or I'm starting to feel like something is
the I statement.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable in this situation because of the behavior, not because you keep doing such, not that. It's because when I hear those words make me feel this.
Right.
When I hear these things, it makes me do this. It makes me think about this, and I don't like that. So please don't do that to me.
Okay.
Don't do that to me. I don't like it when that happens. It makes me feel whatever it makes you feel.
Right.
It makes me feel scared. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me flash back to abuse. It makes me flash back to a time when it wasn't healthy for me, and I don't want to go there. So please don't do that.
I feel like this is going to be one of those topics we wound up circling back on. I think this is one of those ones that everybody experiences it, but a lot of times you don't know how to communicate what you're experiencing. So I got a feeling we'll be back to this one.
Yeah, we definitely have something that we're going to do in a few weeks around feelings and being able to communicate your feelings in an effective way. But of course, again, you need an acronym or something. So our acronym this time is a reset plan when your emotions explode or when your wounds resurface and they come up and they haven't been healed yet. They're not quite healed yet and you're triggered. One of the things that we want you to do is the acronym is TALK. And the T stands for take a breath.
Right.
Take a moment and ask yourself, is this as big? Does this situation warrant this big response? Does this situation warrant this response? And if it doesn't, then breathe through it, figure out where that's coming from, and then create yourself a plan about what you're going to do so that doesn't happen. The A?
The A stands for acknowledge the trigger. So you want to talk about what it is that's happening and then why, as much as you can articulate it, because sometimes you don't really know all of the whys.
Exactly.
But as much as you can, talking about it may help you to kind of come up with why it is that I feel this way.
Got it.
And then based on the relationship, and the level that you have in a relationship, you may be able to go a little bit deeper and figure out where it actually comes from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then next you move to the L.
The L is listen with love.
Mm-hmm.
And that means giving grace when you know that someone has been triggered. Sometimes, yes, it's not fair to you that you stepped on a landmine and that you had no idea it was there and you stepped on it and it blew up. But give some grace, because if their reaction is one that is bigger than the situation, it's probably because there's something bigger than the situation behind that reaction.
Right.
So take a moment and give them some grace in that space. That doesn't mean that I'm not saying accept abuse and not hold people accountable for their behavior. If you're an adult, you're accountable. You need to manage your stuff. But in doing so, be graceful in that space, and as much as you can. And giving grace may mean removing yourself. Giving grace may be, you need time to handle that. I'm going to run over here to the store. I'll be back. And then you do that and give yourself space, because you also don't need to put yourself in a position where you're getting beat up because they have some unhealed pain. Yeah.
And then the K, keep growing through it. So once again, continue to work toward a position where your relationship is thriving.
Yes.
And you want to go through whatever the issues are that you're having.
Yes. 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 If you can talk through the triggers, you can walk through the fire. So just remember that if you can talk through the triggers, you can walk through the fire together.
All right.
All right. So you want to give them the challenge?
Let's see. This week we're going to steps to take when you feel overwhelmed. We're going to practice this week and report back the next time we talk, or put some notes in the comments about how this works out for you.
So it's a trigger recovery plan. And what we want you to do is come up with 3 steps to take when you feel overwhelmed or when you feel like you're being triggered. What are 3 things that you can do? We gave you a few. We told you to take a breath. We told you to recognize that it's happening. Go back and try to find a root. But come up with some things that you can do that are going to be, that you can keep in your pocket, keep in your toolbox, so that you can go get those. You don't want to plan for something while it's occurring. You plan ahead of time. So develop a plan that will help you get through these things when you're being triggered. And the first, I just want you to always ask yourself, is this emotion, this feeling that I'm having, does it match the moment? And if it doesn't match the moment, then I want you to try to reel it back and let's dig deep and figure out where it is. And if you need help with that, just reach out. Reach out. I'll be happy to help coach you through it. I can help you with that.
All right. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Take care. See you later.